welcome to another episode of the MPL 4 podcast. What's going on?
What's going on, man? How you doing, man?
I'm good. This is Mike Rae Anderson. He's a producer, an actor, a poet, award-winning filmmaker, author, mentor, and is now enrolled in Georgia State University. All this after serving 17 and a half years in prison. And we could just dive right into it.
Definitely. We'll definitely dive into it.
So how did you end up in prison?
Well, I always say that it's a spinoff, and that's no pun intended, being in the film and television industry. It's a spinoff of what happened in my everyday life in my household growing up. I grew up in a domestic violence-plagued household off of Bunce Road in Fayetteville, North Carolina. My father's a ex-Vietnam vet / Korean War vet, and he was pretty much diagnosed with PTSD after the wars, but they never counseled our African-American soldiers. They just let them right back into society and expected them to raise families and live a normal life. But my father had a lot of situations that was going on with him. And to give you an example, you're familiar with the simulated bombings that happened in Fort Bragg.
Yeah,
So
right.
when you're in Fayetteville, when you hear a simulated bombing go off, it's a trigger for vets that have PTSD that were in war. So he thought he was in war once he heard a simulated bombing go off, and then he would just jump up and just beat my mother down, thinking she was the enemy, and hold her in headlocks. We used to have to pull him off of my mother, and so just growing up in all this domestic violence and seeing the dysfunctionalism in my household, and being ashamed of being at home, and always wanting to be out in the streets or running around with my friends or whatever because I didn't like being home, it kind of evolved into resentment. So as I got older, lo and behold, here I am in Vietnam, where there's a lot of vices out there and temptations when it comes to, getting involved with street life and so on and so forth. So I got involved with street life in so many different levels. I tried to escape one time by going into the military, but I got a medical discharge, and how that goes. Went back to the streets, and one thing led to another after I was involved with selling drugs, selling guns, and stuff like that. And there was one situation where we were out at a party, and a certain altercation occurred where a person lost their life. And after they lost their life, I was the one that was blamed for it because I was the one that was seen with one of the guns that were used in the actual murder. And so I was targeted as the person that they charged. So I was charged with second-degree murder, and they locked me up, gave me a bond. I made bond. 3 days later, was keeping my mouth shut, knew who was responsible for the whole situation, but never ran my mouth. And then another situation happened 7 months later while I was out on bond where an altercation had arisen over a dispute over a small amount of drugs, and that altercation evolved into a shootout that led me getting locked right back up for murder, and I was facing the death penalty plus life plus 60 years in 1991 as a teenager.
So how did you you was facing the death penalty, so how did you end up with life? Did you take a plea or you went to trial?
I ended up taking a plea bargain, and one of the plea offers that they gave me was called an Alfred plea. And that was a plea that said I don't have to state that I'm guilty for anything. I'm just saying, hey, this is for my best interest because I feel like I'm in fear of losing my life by going to trial or whatever. So I took a plea bargain for life. Ended up going to the North Carolina Department of Corrections and decided to serve my life sentence the best way that I knew how, and that was being productive. I was on the inside. I got 2 college degrees, 9 different vocational trades. I was writing plays for the inmates on the inside. I was writing books. I was making sure that I was spending my time productively and changing my life and righting my wrongs because I knew I didn't want to be in that mind state for the rest of my life, and I felt like that there was some hope for me around the corner with just a life sentence that I would one day soon see in freedom. So I prepared myself and found out who I was on the inside. I was writing poetry. I was doing talent shows, figuring out that I was a creative, talented person and I could be productive. I had dreams of helping the youth because when I was on the inside, closer to the end of my sentence, I seen the faces that were coming into prison becoming younger and younger. So that I knew there was a problem with our youth on the outside, and I decided to say, you know what, here's the 4 things that I want to do. I wrote the vision down plain, like it says in Scripture. I folded it up, put it in an envelope, and never opened the envelope. And one of those things had a lot to do with helping the youth. The other things were making sure that I got involved with film and television, and became an entrepreneur to make sure that I was able to sustain and use my gifts and let my gifts make way. And then lo and behold, after serving 17 and a half years on that life sentence, they deemed me a model inmate and said, well, we're going to give you a second chance because we don't think you're supposed to be in here anymore.
Right. Now, you said that your parents, what they went through and what you've seen,
Yes.
that kind of led you into the street life?
Yeah,
You think so?
it gave me resentment. And then finally my mother couldn't take it no more, so she, split up with my father. My mother became a single mother, raising, her kids in the hood, and she was working for $3.65 an hour at the hospital. So that wasn't money, Of course, my father was a high-ranking degree official in a certain organization, so when he went to court to pay alimony, he wasn't ordered to really pay anything, and then, his military money, they couldn't touch that. That's always been a situation where they can't tell you what to do with your military money. So my mom wasn't really making it, and I got tired of wearing hand-me-downs that my brothers used to have and all this other stuff, and I kind of wanted to look a little better, so here and there, I would get involved with selling a little bit of weed, trying to make some extra money, and then, as time went on, what I call the New Jack City era kicked in, and there was more opportunities to get money in different ways. And as a young person growing up in a state of oppression, which is what I call Fayetteville had this oppressive black cloud over it sometimes, and we just was influenced to make some of the worst decisions, because every situation I was in, trust me, I wasn't the only wrong one in that situation. Everybody out there was wrong, and we were just out doing, stupid things for the wrong reasons, man, and there was no productivity behind that, and it just turned into a fiasco to where some people, lost their lives, and some people got incarcerated,
So did you make any amends with the family, any other family members or anything?
Family members, friends, I made some amends here and there, some people to this very day are probably,
Still bitter?
Yeah, just, and I can understand that because, I lost my nephew since I've been home when he came out of prison, and it hurt me, my nephew Omar, when his life got taken. It made me realize the pain that comes with that. So it was a pain that I actually was up against, and I realized, even deeper how much pain that I caused. So it allowed me to seek redemption even further and to continue to live productively. And, once I got out for parole, it made a lot of things easier because I had to stay on parole for several years.
Right.
And they tell you, don't talk to nobody. Don't mess with nobody. Don't have no conversations with anybody that may be part of, the victim circle, so to speak. And so, I was in a shell for a little while. Still going after my creative outlets, but at the same time, trying to figure out at some point, how do I make complete amends and how do I seek complete redemption? And, I did it here and there, but, everybody's not going to be happy.
Right. Now, going back, you said that you did talent shows in prison and wrote scripts and all that. Now, I know in high school you did talent shows and things too.
I did in middle school and high school and all of that.
So my question is, do you think you could have channeled your energy towards that instead of the life of crime?
I do, but I was never nurtured. Nobody ever really knew the value of my creativity. Nobody ever came along and was like, hey, I'm going to help you out. I'm going to send you to college or whatever, you know what I'm saying, for arts and entertainment. There was no outlets there. And then on top of that, I wasn't as sociable as I am to this very day. My personality was different because I was ashamed of a lot of stuff happening in my household. And I didn't ever really let too many people get too close to me. The few people that were close to me would figure it out and find out later on that, I grew up in a dysfunctional home. The neighborhood knew what was going on because the cops were always at my house for my father or whatever. But at the same time, the cops were at everybody's house in my neighborhood. That's just the type of neighborhood it was, And I mean, you got to think, man. You got a whole bunch of black African-American military vets that you put in one central location. All of them got PTSD to some degree because most of them served in war or they were in the military long enough to be conditioned to have PTSD. So if you put them in the middle of one neighborhood, man, and never counsel them, you got alcoholism, drug abuse, and all sorts of things, and that spawns crime. That spawns children that commit crime because they see crime around them, and it's just going on 24/7, almost to the point to where it's a classic example of classical conditioning. Maybe I'm just only good for crime. See what I'm saying?
Right.
So I could have made some good decisions because some of my friends made some good decisions and went to college. But, I just think at one point I felt like God put his hand on me and said, this is your life. I'm getting ready to put you through this because I need you to be a stronger example in the future. College ain't going to make you that. Prison will.
Yeah. Now, full disclosure, me and Mike, we know each other. We hung around some of the same people, neighborhood, right paths, through a path. We in each other's neighborhood. And one of the incidents he was charged with was a friend of mine. He was a friend of mine, hung in my neighborhood. But the thing is, with that, like you said, the people that some still bitter about the situation.
Oh, yeah.
And what I say is, and I've told Mike this, that it could have been you on the other end.
It could have been.
Because the way we was all living, it could have been you.
Yeah, I only reacted the way I reacted because it was about to be me on the other end. So, you never know, man.
Mm-hmm.
And, by the end of the day, this is what I tell people, like, seriously, like, step back, take a look, and figure out what's happening after it all happened. I could have came home and became a fool, but I didn't,
Do you remember? So, what year did you come home?
2008, and I ran into you 2 weeks after I came home.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it couldn't have been 2008 because I came home in 99. So.
I came home in 2008.
Oh,
2008.
Oh, 2008. Okay. Oh,
yeah.
That's right. I'm thinking.
And I ran into you 2 weeks.
Yeah.
In Northgate Mall.
In the mall. Do you remember?
Back in Durham, North Carolina, and I was just like, okay, that's Leon. And I had caught word before through other people that was working at the prisons I was at that said, Leon, was, cool with all those people and blah, blah, blah. And so I remember those words ringing in my head when I saw you. And we, looked at each other. We kind of, tried to feel each other out.
That's, man, that's
like we was on the yard.
I was on that same page, and I was wondering, did you, and I told somebody else this. I said, when I first seen Mike when he came home, he looked at me, and I looked at him. And I said, I always wondered, was he filling me out? And
you never know.
Yeah,
and
never
so
know.
I don't know. I had heard you were in a better place in life.
Right.
But remind you when I said earlier, I had made amends years down the road after being released. So I was literally, you were the first one that I saw after being free.
Right.
2 weeks later, and I was like, okay, here we go.
Right.
What is this going to turn into?
Yeah, because the first thing you asked me when we walked to each other and shook my hand, you like, everything good? I'm like, yeah, I'm good, man. You good?
Yeah. I said, anything we need to talk about.
Right.
And I always open the floor up to conversation and communication because that's the one thing that didn't happen during those times, you know what I'm saying? And I realized that conversation and communication goes a long way. And you can, as a man, it doesn't make you soft to express yourself wanting peace. You feel what I'm saying?
Right.
So I think a lot of people, our youth get that misinterpreted because we don't teach it enough to tell them it's okay. It doesn't make you soft seeking peace. It actually gives you the opportunity to live your life as a man, and but you still stand your ground as a man. And when I realized that Leon was in a different place, it made me feel better about me being in my different place. So that I know turned into peace.
Right.
Because years down the road, I came to you again when I formed my nonprofit organization, and you were you were giving out free haircuts to some of the guys, the youth that I was, dealing with.
Right.
And that helped me out a lot. And then later on, we ended up on TV together in an interview. So, I mean, when we come together in solidarity and under the terms of peace, we get a lot more accomplished. And that's just how I look at it.
Yeah, that's what's up. Now, how did you feel when the judge said life?
Oh man,
what was your mind going through?
Confusion.
Confusion.
What's up ahead the road for? What's on the road ahead for me? What is it that I'm gonna have to endure? What am I up against?
Right.
I'm going to the place that they always stigmatize and stereotype on television and in movies as the worst place to be. How do I get ready? And when I go in, I'm not just gonna run into friends. I'm gonna run into enemies.
Right.
Because a lot of them was doing the same stupid stuff for years and going in and out. So how do I confront this whole situation? And thank God I was given a day before I had to go to prison after getting my life sentence. I was given a day just to still be in the jail. I was able to meditate, pray, get my thoughts together, and pull the ill intentions out of my heart after fearing the possibility I had to encounter conflict behind this whole thing. So how do I go in? You know, I go in a warrior, but I go in a peaceful warrior. And, you know, luckily through divine intervention, I was able to encounter people in peace.
Right.
And at the same time, you know, people knew me. A lot of people knew my real nature. They knew I wasn't that type of person that's a rah-rah person.
Right.
That if anything, it was because, you know, there was some endangerment involved and some life-threatening situations. So, you know, I wasn't that dude that people can say, yeah, he was always causing trouble.
Yeah, that's the same with me. You know,
Yeah.
I share my story, but I wasn't. I know I'm not. You're not gonna hear anybody say that. I was.
Yeah.
We were just. I guess caught up in the streets. I guess. Like you
Man,
say.
we were just caught up in the confusion of our youth.
Right.
And a lot of people don't realize it, man. It can happen to you in a split second.
Yeah.
And it can happen to
Yeah.
anybody.
Product of our environment.
Product of your environment, and then you just react to your immediate circumstances and situations, man. And this is why I always try to talk to the youth to, you know, you got to think about it, man. We came up in the era when gangster rap had just hit.
Yeah.
When movies like New Jack City just hit.
Yeah. I just had somebody that was on a week ago. He mentioned that's what. Not New Jack City. It was
Boys in the Hood,
Belly,
probably,
maybe.
or Menace to Society or Belly.
yeah.
One of those.
Yeah.
They're very
And,
influential movies.
I used to listen to a lot of NWA and Scarface
Yeah,
back then. Too.
yeah, man. That was just coming up, and
yeah.
everybody was like, "Okay, this is different. I want to
Right.
listen to it." But just think about the spirit that it puts into you, like, and the words. When you let certain things go into your ear gate, it becomes a manipulative spirit to the point to where you're going to think and react to what is going in and out your mind. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So I got a question.
Yes.
I hear a lot of people say successful people are people who've overcame or built businesses and this and that.
Yes.
And people ask them the question, what would you have done different? And a lot of them say, I wouldn't have done anything different because it made me who I am today.
Yes.
Would you go back and do something different? Even though you're successful now, would you go back and do something different?
Only thing that I regret is that a life had to be lost.
Right.
And if I can go back and do anything different, if God would allow me to, if this is what wasn't his doing, you know, the only thing that I can go back and do differently is to stay in bed that day. Or I could have been at this event with a friend of mine. She had asked me to come to the event. I could have been at that event and not had been in that situation that day.
Right. I say I would listen to my mama and my grandma.
Oh, definitely. Well, here's the thing, you know. So my mother was German, and my mother pretty much didn't feel like I was getting caught up in nothing. So she was very liberal with how we ran our own lives. So if she's not trusting, she's not even. There was things that I was being sneaky about.
Right. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all was.
So if they don't know, they don't know what to tell you. They don't tell you, I don't like the way this feels.
Right.
Because they don't think you're getting in trouble. And I wasn't, like I said, again, the type that always got into trouble. And it just so happened that my mode of operation was in an area that will bound to make you fall at some point. You know what I'm saying? So just the fall itself, man, to me is what I would have changed, because people got hurt, emotions were hurt. You know, people on my side lost me. My little brother,
Yeah.
he didn't. It messed him up. It messed his head up to lose his big brother for indefinitely.
Yeah. Now you touching on something that I've been saying on basically every interview so far.
Yeah, like
We
it
hurt our
happens
family.
on both sides.
Yeah, we hurt our
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
You know, at the same time hurting ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
More probably,
Yeah,
man,
yeah.
because now my mom is having to come see me every weekend in a prison.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my little brother is having. My little brother couldn't even see me for. I had to stay in the county jail 3 years waiting for trial. That whole time, there was an age limit. And my little brother could not come see me that whole time. One time, the lieutenant was like, "Man, I'm tired of seeing this." Saw my little brother outside, went and got him, and walked him upstairs and let him come to the window where my mom was at. And it like broke me down to see my brother come out of nowhere at 11 years old, 12 years old, saying, "Hey, Mikey," you know what I'm saying? And I was just like, wow.
Right.
And he cried. I cried.
Right.
That's when I realized there was more pain behind this whole situation than anybody can ever imagine. But, my tears were because of the pain that I knew I was feeling in the moment. And I was just like, yo, I just can imagine who else is crying.
Right.
So I was never selfish about, the whole situation. I always knew, yeah, if you ever make it out of here alive, you better go your ass home and do right.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And whatever productive activity you can get involved with, you better go hard. And that's how I used to preach to myself every day.
Yeah, and that's what I liked when you came home. As for me, we put our head down, never look back.
Just
start,
exactly.
striving
And
to be better people.
And that's why I admired you as the years went on because, and when you asked me to do this, I said, sure.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because some people may not want to see us sitting here talking together, discussing these things on a microphone, but somebody else needs to hear this.
Oh, yeah. Most
There's
definitely.
way more people out there that we need to be concerned about than those that are going to be selfish and hate what they're seeing or hearing right now. I have no room for hatred right now.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know what I'm saying? And it's not going to ever play a role in my life. You take that up with God.
Right.
That's how I roll with it.
You know,
what I'm
like
saying?
you said, I have people, like we know a lot of same people, and a lot of them ain't not gonna like this interview. But,
It's cool.
It's
cool
I
because
still love them.
yeah, we love everybody,
Right,
man.
right.
And you can hate me, I'ma still love you
Right.
because God told me to. And if I hate you, that's ugly.
Right. Yes.
That's
Exactly.
ugly.
Yeah, we don't
You
want
know
to.
what I'm saying? You can get upset, talk about me on social media,
Right.
comment about me, call me out of my name. Just keep it at that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I understand.
Yeah. So we're gonna jump into your book.
Oh yeah,
your
the
book.
book which became a movie.
Yeah, which became a movie. For Polished Souls.
Yeah, a polished soul.
A Polished Soul. Right. Tell
Yeah.
us more about the movie. How did you get all them actors in there?
Because the movie is not even really about the crime. The movie
Right.
is about the redemption and overcoming prison. And what I wanted to do was say, okay, everybody's always telling people how not to go to prison. Let's say you go. What happens then? How do you overcome it? How do you endure it? And how do you defeat it so that it doesn't become a plague in your life where you keep going back? I made a movie based on people I started meeting because I became an actor first before I became a producer. And as I was going through the industry, I was meeting people. Everywhere that I was at, I would meet somebody and they would hear my story. If I was a speaker at the BET Awards or whatever, whatever I was doing, I was meeting people that would fall in love with me. And, they would just be like, yo, Mike, your story and blah, blah, blah. Because I was never deflecting the blame. I was taking responsibility for all my actions,
Right.
number one.
Oh yeah, you got to do that.
Yeah. And number two, I was never the one that was claiming he was innocent for everything.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Even though there was some innocence involved with some of it. And on top of that, I was able to tell them what I learned not to do while I was in prison.
Right.
So these people that I met were major actors, major producers and stuff like that. And they would say, well, talk to me. Let's see what we can do for this project. And so I went in, was able to put something together. We started filming the movie, and then it was not until years later that I started trying to get it off the ground that this brother named David Leathers Sr., he approached me. He was the father of David Leathers Jr., who was a two-time American Idol finalist that Larry Rivera had introduced me to. So when he brought his son to me, he wanted to figure out how I can possibly help revamp his career and kind of like resurrect his career because being on American Idol had crushed this young man and kind of made him unmotivated to go after his dream with his gift of singing and all that. But I, make a long story short, David Leathers Sr., man, jumped in and decided to help me. Several other people decided to help me on the project. Some people contributed here and there. Brandon King, shout out to Brandon King, helped out. Andre Dude, my man that I known ever since Little League football in Fayetteville. He's a sushi chef now. He jumped in with a few things, man. So many people helped in so many different ways.
Right.
Shout out to my boy Damian Moore, gave us a location, where I started at, working at Dame's Chicken and Waffles. When I first came home, we started that. And, all the things that were part of success became a part of my movie because it was my journey and my life story. So I had everything really put together as I was living.
Right.
Was able to pull these actors in. They got involved. That cost a little money, but we did what we had to do, here and there.
God will provide.
God will provide, definitely.
Yeah.
So, with the low budget that we were able to put together, because I skillfully learned how to make movies by studying Google. I went to Google University and YouTube University.
Right.
So I was able to figure out how to become a filmmaker and then just pretty much shot that whole movie myself, did the sound myself. On several occasions, I had one or two people that might have stepped in and did all the editing myself.
Well, I need a cameo because I always want to be an actor myself. So.
Well, look, I got multiple film projects coming up, man, so I could definitely get you involved with anything because that's my thing, man. My thing is really making sure that the brothers that went through the same struggle I did are able to live through this dream. We had a few people in there, man. Who was in there? Tamarcus Austin. He was part of the movie. He played one of my homies from Detroit in there that we all knew each other. I had some former COs playing inmates.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So it was like crazy, man. And it was just like dope. And it was just a whole grand experience. And the Cumberland, shout out to Sheriff Enos, who opened up the Cumberland County Jail. My boy, my childhood friend I grew up with, Clay Morning, helped me with it too. Opened up the Cumberland County Jail so I could film the prison scenes in there. And here, over here in Durham, there was the Broad Street juvenile facility that opened up for me. So everybody was just opening. It was like God said, and God did,
Right,
and it happened.
Yeah, that's what your term "God out the box" is.
God
awesome.
out the box is awesome, man. That's why I tell people.
How did you come up with that?
I come up with that because people think you just have to go to a building to worship Him, and put Him in a box, walls and a ceiling.
Okay, yeah, okay.
No, you take Him with Him everywhere you go, wherever you go, and you allow His vast existence to be more than just inside of a building or in a congregation or wherever, or inside of a temple or inside of a mosque or wherever. He exists above and beyond and can do so many more things than we always have a tendency to box Him.
Right. Yeah,
we put Him in a box. Nah, it's greater than that. You know
greater than that. Yeah, other day I posted God provides. That's all I posted on Facebook.
Exactly.
And the reason I posted that because somebody asked me about a certain situation that something that I did, and I said I'm not worried about it. I said God will provide. And, He, all I did, what I've been through in life, from starting 2 barbershops to even starting this podcast,
you have been doing it,
and He's providing,
and He's there. And I think about everybody else, like because even one of the people that helped me out of here and there with the movie was Kelsey Battle.
Oh yeah,
I can.
Shout out to Kelsey Battle. I can.
He was one of the people that jumped on board, and was a behind the scenes silent person that helped out here and there. And I'm looking and I'm just like, yo, all these people are entrepreneurs. Like I said in the beginning when I started my organization, you helped me with the haircuts. And it feels good. It feels great to work as a community.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because that's why I say later for the hatred.
Yeah.
Get that out of my face.
And make sure y'all go Instagram, check out Kelsey Battle. I Can Clothes. Instagram or icanclothes.com.
Yeah. That's the man right there, man.
Yeah. So talk about Sins of the City.
That was
a new episode.
Yeah, it actually aired already, on TV One.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people called me from Fayetteville and was just like, "Yo, Mike, I saw you." I played a detective.
I actually fell asleep before it came on.
Yeah.
I woke up the next morning like, dang, I missed it.
It's cool, but it was about Juan Segovia, detective. I played his role. He was the one that solved the murder of your guy that played for Miami, Sean. What was his name? I forgot already.
Right.
But anyway, it's a TV show. It comes on TV One, but I've been on several TV One television shows as an actor.
Right.
But, just the joy of it, man, is a beautiful thing, man.
Right.
It keeps me productive and it keeps me operating in my creativity and my art. And that's what saved me on the inside.
Right.
I was able to stay artistic and creative and survive prison without even losing my mind. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's a good thing to see.
Yeah.
So what would you tell kids today that are going through the same struggles we went through?
Be more transparent and be more honest about the wrong that you're doing, because sometimes we don't want to hear that you're trying to cover up the wrong you're doing. And we don't want to hear you lie about it. We want to hear you to tell the truth so we can teach you. Be more transparent and allow yourself to open up and realize that you do want to make the change. If you don't make the change before these certain circumstances and repercussions happen, then be willing to make the change after it happens. If you ever find yourself in an institution, incarcerated, jail, prison, or whatever, it ain't too late to change your mind and make your life better. That's what I tell them, because sometimes it's inevitable.
Yeah.
They will end up in some type of facility because if they choose to do wrong. If you choose to do wrong and you end up there, change your life there. It ain't too late.
It ain't too late. Never too late.
Never too late.
Always strive to get better.
Always strive to get better, man.
Well, there you have it for another episode of the Impel Forward Podcast. Thanks for coming on, Mike.
My pleasure, brother.
If you like what you saw, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Impel Forward Podcast.